Buckle up, I have a lot to talk about. I've been wearing this watch pretty much 24/7 for the past month. I've done different kinds of workouts with it, I've been to extremely cold weather conditions, and I've taken showers with it. So now I'm going to revisit some of the topics I talked about in the original review video, things that I like and don't like, and things that went wrong. Plus, as a bonus, I'm going to share with you my favorite watch face that I think you all should be using. Unlike, say, an Apple Watch or some other brands that have a square or rectangular design, the Venu 2 Plus has a circular design, and it's also got a smaller diameter than the Venu 2, which I think makes it even more appealing to people who don't necessarily like big watches. I love the design, the size and thickness, so let's leave it there. I also haven't had any discomfort wearing this watch to bed or at any other times during the day. Having said that, I think the silicone straps are a little stiff and cause dryness on my skin and give me a tiny rash which actually went away after a week. But if I had to complain about something, I would just say that the straps could be even softer. For example, when I tried the Fenix 7 Solar, I was so surprised that the straps were even more comfortable than the Venu 2 Plus. And I noticed it right away, like immediately. The Venu 2 Plus has an AMOLED display, and I've had no problems whatsoever reading the watch indoors and outdoors. You can obviously adjust the brightness of the watch. I've changed the brightness to low, and I think it's still perfectly readable. And that's what I'd recommend everyone to do, because the brightness of the watch or the display brightness affects the battery life significantly. And of course, you can still have the auto brightness on even if you adjust the brightness of the watch. The user interface of this watch is pretty sweet. It works very smoothly. However, it's not Apple Watch level smooth. And in certain places and occasions, you can definitely see a lag. Also, I noticed that the main view, which is the one that you see by swiping up or down, does not update in real time, and instead it batch updates the whole view, which in my opinion affects the user experience. Here's an example of what I mean. If I now go to the hydration app and add a cup of water, then go back to the main view, the number hasn't changed. Although sometimes it does work, so that's why I think they put a timer there to update the view instead of doing it in real time. And because of that, in the beginning I mistakenly added more cups of water thinking that it didn't add, while behind the scenes things were working just fine. The Venu 2 Plus has 3 physical buttons, and the one in the middle can act as a shortcut. In fact, you can set up 2 shortcuts for that button, one for tapping and the other one for holding. But in my opinion, Garmin can easily, with a software update, extend the functionality of this shortcut, meaning they can add double taps and triple taps. Alright, I know you're all dying to know about the battery life, and you're right, it's 2022 and we all want good battery life for our devices. A lot of people have messaged me and thanked me for talking about the battery life in the last video, and some of them were considering buying an Apple Watch and they didn't even know that they need to charge the watch every day. But what about the Venu 2 Plus? Does it really last 9 days? Nah. Unless you turn off most things, that's never gonna happen. But here's the thing, an average person would probably need to charge their watch anywhere between 3 to 6 days. Over the course of the past month, I've had exactly 5.5 days of battery life each week, and I never let the battery drain completely. So in total, I've only charged this watch 4 times. Think about that for a minute if you were considering buying an Apple Watch. Charging your watch about 30 times a month versus 4 or 5 times a month. Not only charging your watch less frequently is more convenient, but it also adds to the battery life itself. So the battery degrades slower as well. I bet nobody told you that. Now obviously everybody has a different usage pattern, and if you take more out of your watch, then it's probably gonna need more juice. And I almost forgot to say that 1 hour gives me exactly 80% charge. So if you charge your watch around 10 to 15%, after 1 hour you're gonna have 90 to 95% charge. Just because your watch has a heart rate sensor doesn't mean it provides you with accurate results. But you know what's even more important than accuracy? It's the consistency of the readings. And this has certainly been satisfactory for me. And I also really like it that in addition to the current heart rate, I can also see the 7-day average resting heart rate, which can tell a lot about my lifestyle, so I can reflect and make improvements if possible. I also really like it that I can always go back to the previous activities and see a nice graph of my heart rate for an entire session, both on the watch and the app. I'm also really glad that I can see the live heart rate on the app itself. Not all the watches do that. And you can also get abnormal heart rate alerts on your watch. Hey, I made this video for you and it took a long time to make, so be sure to leave a like for me and subscribe if you like TikToks. I mostly have positive things to say about the stress management, except the fact that it's highly sensitive to movement, so it cannot get a good reading or a reading at all if you're moving a lot. But also, just like what you saw in my first video, there are these gaps that happen even though if you're sitting still. There are these gaps that happen from time to time, and basically the watch cannot read your stress levels, which I don't know why, but overall I'm really happy with it. And this feature is probably what I check out the most throughout the day, and related to that they have these very nice breathing exercises that you can have directly access to via the stress management part of the watch. The nice thing about these breathing exercises is that after it's done, you can actually see how you have lowered your stress levels. There were a couple cases that I actually increased my stress levels, and that was because my mind was actually preoccupied. Unlike many other things, sometimes a simple value can be meaningless, and that's why you can see your stress trend both on the app and the watch, except on the app you can see it for up to a year. Whew. Sleep tracking. Does it work? Yes, it does. But nothing's perfect, so don't expect the highest accuracy. However, like I said, an even better gauge than accuracy is consistency, and this guy delivers that for the most part, no problem. But I've noticed that it especially does a better job in tracking when I fall asleep than when I wake up, especially if I don't get up immediately. So if you're the kind of person who likes to stay in bed and use your phone for a while after waking up, you might run into this problem that the watch thinks that you're still sleeping. And for that I have a solution. Simply note the time you wake up, and later on when you see your stats, if you see a different wake up time, just go to the app and edit your wake up time. Simple as that. Alright, now let's talk about the bugs. Oh boy. Like any software, you can expect some bugs here and there. But there have been a few that have happened to me, or rather to the watch. Perhaps one of the biggest ones was when I was walking outside and the watch just crashed, meaning it restarted. And this has happened twice so far, and both times I was walking outside in freezing temperatures. So could that have caused it? If so, I'm really disappointed. I really hope it had nothing to do with that. Another bug I found was if you're walking outside and the Move IQ has activated and the GPS is tracking you, if you go to the glance view and check the last 7 day activities, the watch crashes, meaning it restarts again. Here's another one. The watch face went nuts a couple times, meaning it got mixed up with some unreadable text, and every time I wanted to take a picture of it, it just went away. There were also a couple times that I went outside for walks, anytime between 20 to 40 minutes, and the Move IQ was activated, but the GPS did not track me, meaning I couldn't see the path that I'd taken later on in the app. However, both times it was really cloudy, so that might have been the reason. The hydration part of the mobile app always shows me 1 cup less than what I have on the watch. The two biggest selling points of this watch are the more compact size than the Venu 2 and the built-in microphone and speaker. I've used the watch to make and take calls a couple times, and I have to say I'm impressed with the quality of the speaker, but the mic is not the best. However, it's definitely not too bad as long as you're not in a noisy environment and you're holding the watch in front of your mouth. So yeah, it's practical and it actually does work. You can receive all sorts of notifications from your phone and you can customize those directly on the app. However, if you have an iPhone, your only option is to go to the phone's settings, notifications, and then disable those apps that you don't want to receive notifications from. But that's kind of a bummer because then you won't be able to get any notifications even on your phone. I've also used the assistant, but since there is no built-in assistant, it takes a few seconds to connect to your phone via Bluetooth, and sometimes it just doesn't work. You can also reply to messages with customized text messages, but this is again only available on Android. You can also mark them as read, but I wish there was a voice reply as well. I would have loved that feature. One thing I noticed is that if someone messages you and you don't dismiss them or mark them as read, and they keep sending you these messages, the message would show up as only one single text, which means scrolling the message would get very laggy, and then at a certain length, the message gets truncated, which means you would have to use your phone to see the message in full. So it would have been very nice if you could see these messages separately in the notification center. There are more apps, watch faces, etc. that you can install by using the Connect IQ Store app. However, as many of these are developed by third-party providers, they might be buggy sometimes, and even worse, they might interfere with the normal functioning of your watch. Man, this video is taking longer than I thought. You still there? Cool. I'll keep it short. I love the step counter. I think it's one of the best and most accurate ones. I tested the step counting because it's the easiest by first normally walking 100 steps and then crossing my arms and walking for 50 steps. And in both cases, it showed me only a few steps more than I actually took. The floor climbing is not as reliable as the step counting though, but it's still pretty good. And I know it's not as easy as counting your steps. Funny thing is that one night, according to the watch, I had climbed 9 floors and the goal was 10. And at the end of the day, I was sitting in the chair and it just suddenly celebrated me for achieving 10 floors climbing goal. Now let's talk about the sport modes. I've done many strength training sessions and a couple treadmill sessions with this watch. And by far, the strength training tracking is my favorite. And that is because depending on what you do, you can actually have an almost touchless experience. Let me explain. So the moment you start the strength training, and as long as you've enabled the auto rep counts and auto set, the watch can actually detect different kinds of workouts, your squats, your bench presses, your curls. But of course, it's not perfect, so it doesn't always work correctly. And also the rest period, the rep counts don't always work properly. But the good thing is that you can always later on edit these workouts and correct them basically. Not only that, you can create your very own workouts. But if you do that and you start the workout, you actually lose that touchless experience, meaning you have to just start and stop in between each sets. Now here are 5 annoying things I couldn't resist but to tell you. If you want to track your hydration, you always need to have your phone nearby, otherwise you just can't do it internally. Why, Garmin? Just use the internal memory. While having a health snapshot is a great feature, people want to see their snapshot trend, especially when it comes to the HRV or heart rate variability. Like I said before, a single value can sometimes be meaningless. So please add those HRV charts, Garmin. You can only have one custom watch face that you've made via the Connect IQ app at a time, while on the app itself you can have several. You can only have one installed at a time on the watch. The watch reminds you to be active, but the problem is that there doesn't seem to be an intelligence in this, as it sometimes even reminds you to be active after doing an activity or even if it's near your bedtime, which is very annoying. In the notifications glance, you cannot clear all notifications, or I don't know how to. And here's my favorite watch face. And that is because it has so many useful data fields. Of course, you can install more data-rich watch faces from the Connect IQ app, but this one's available for everyone by default. If you want to buy this watch, putting aside a few flaws that I mentioned, I think you're probably going to be happy with your choice. And I'll put a link in the description where you can buy this watch and support this channel. I'll see you in the next one.